3, 2, 1. Hi, comics fans. It's me, Ash. This is Ash on Comics. It's a channel where some weirdo on YouTube talks about comics through his iPad. You're here. You've been here before. Hopefully, you've been here before. If you're new, hey, welcome. This is a hobby channel. You're gonna see there's no frills. Just some guy who likes to talk about comics and did a YouTube channel so he can do so. Today we're going to be talking about Nocterra. This is a book by Scott Snyder and Tony S. Daniel on art. It is an independent book from Image, and I don't think I have done a video. My memory's really bad. Maybe I did. I don't think that I have talked about Nocterra yet officially. I'm trying to make this a quick video. I like this book. This is the best book for Nocterra so far. This is a book that's on my pull list, so it's a high recommend. Obviously, if I'm paying for it, then I recommend other people do. It's worth the money. It's $3.99. It's got great art, and it's got good writing. And let's get into it. So basically, a quick premise, sum up to this point. This has been 5 issues so far. It's a sci-fi kind of horror premise. The world has been sent into darkness. Some great event called the PM is what they call it happened one day, and the world just went dark. We've found out it's not like the sun went away. It's just that there is no sun. There hasn't been a full explanation yet, which is part of the appeal of this book. If you're like me, the reason to enjoy Scott Snyder isn't because he's necessarily the best writer. And when I say that, meaning his telling of the story isn't always the best. He's not a great character person. He's not a great he doesn't explore themes very well. His strengths are in ideas. Scott Snyder is a big, bold idea person. World building, very just creative ideas. And I think, for me, that's one of the biggest things you can do in comics. If you're a really good storyteller, if you're really good at character development and exploring themes, I think there's other mediums, perhaps novels, are better suited for that level of writing. Certainly there are good writers in comics that can do that. Anyways, this is why you're going to get this book, right? It's not because the characters are so fantastic and so well fleshed out or whatever. It's because it's an interesting idea. And if you like the idea perhaps of a post-apocalyptic setting, because imagine if there's no sun, the world goes into darkness, that's going to really throw things off. To make matters worse, there's sort of this infection, this plague. It's not really a plague, it's an effect that's caused by the darkness. When you are in darkness, eventually it somehow consumes you and turns you into a monster. Everything in the world is affected by this. Plant life, insects, animals, humans. And humans are the apex of this. So they get turned into these things called shades. And, animals get turned into everything gets turned into a shadow version of itself, which is not necessarily the same thing as you'd expect in the real world Earth. And the main characters, Val, the girl here, and her brother M, their parents were affected by this. And so this is now 13 years later. They had to be killed because there is no coming back from the infection once you have it. When we last left off, Val's brother M, you can see here, has been infected. He's been in the dark too long. And he attacks her. That was a big cliffhanger of the last issue. So things have been really picking up. I wouldn't say the series had started slow. It started interesting, but I feel like it's just gotten better. This issue is my favorite so far. The last issue was my favorite so far before that, because now we're really getting into the, more details of the story. In the beginning, you're kind of like, what's going on? It's kind of confusing. Scott is kind of guilty of a lot of exposition, but I don't necessarily hold that against him because it gets the story going. Because he's such a big world builder, he's a big, explorer of all these different ideas. Not ideas, but, just, he's trying to create this big backdrop. He could spend 12 issues just like letting it go out, or he wants to get you to where you want you to be. And some people don't like that. I don't necessarily mind it. It's not fluff. That's the difference. Why I give him a pass versus other writers like Bendis or Tom King, who just love to be wordy, just to be filled pages. Scott's not doing that. I mean, he really is trying to give you all this information. Now, the heart of this story that we pick up on is Val is she's like a trucker. The world's in darkness, and there's refugees of like towns and cities or whatever, small cities like that have managed to like keep the lights on, right? And if you can stay in light, then you won't be affected. So there's a few cities here and there, and then the rest of the world's in darkness. And she's like a transporter that transports either goods or people between these places. And faces the darkness. There's a backstory about her. How she used to be blind, so she's kind of used to the darkness. I'm not going to get on to that. The first, not her first job, but the job that we pick up on is she hired this old man and his granddaughter want to hire her to take her to this place. This is who you see here on the screen, and his name is Tiberius. And she ends up, because people are chasing her and a bunch of other complications, she doesn't want to take the job at first. It's very Han Solo-ish, like, whatever. And then it's like, she takes him. And she doesn't really believe. He says, I got a place where there's light. And he figures out that M's got a thing we can cure, blah, blah, blah. So sure enough, we get there. This is a big spoiler review, as all my reviews tend to be spoilers. We get to this place, this haven, where there's sunlight. The book doesn't explain it. It's one of those things that Scott likes to do, and it's like he reveals little pieces at a time, and like, boom, hey, we have sunlight, but it's, how do we have sunlight? The world's in darkness. It doesn't make sense. Well, I'm sure Scott has reasons. He just hasn't told us that, which again is part of the allure. It keeps you going, I need to buy the next issue to find out. We can see here M is in pain. He is infected, and when you turn into a shade, it sort of like takes over your mind. Like you get replaced, it feels like, with the monster inside. It's not really explained, and he attacks his sister. You speak in this weird alien gibberish tongue, you can see, and you become something else. So the story moves on. They end up capturing him or whatever, apprehending him, and using the sunlight, they're able to cleanse him. And the thing is, in the rest of the world, there is no actual sunlight. There's just varying degrees of artificial light. There are certain solar lights that they were trying to get at one part of the story that are better, but this, like, raw, real sunlight apparently is the thing, and it's they're checking his eye because that's part of where you can see the infection, and he's like cured, and it's a major thing, or so we think. Scott's always got curveballs, and we see Tiberius. I'm trying to keep all these names straight. He had a brother, Augustus, and we find out that Augustus, he basically created this darkness problem through some crazy scientific experiment that went wrong, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to fill you in on all the details. He says his brother was the brains. His brother's dead, but he's kind of been left with some of the things. He says that there's other hidden spots, sanctuary spots like this, that actually some even have better light than what's here. And we get to see that they have some of the human shades captured, which these are supposed to be the true terrors, because not only are they in the dark like the other creatures of the night, but they have like a real intelligence, just like humans. So I really find it interesting what Scott's done here. Scott has done vampire stories, right? He's famous for his American Vampire. He likes to tell horror stories. This feels kind of like a vampire story, but with a whole fresh twist that I've never seen before. Some of the ideas that I'm not going to talk about here about what the darkness is, I find very interesting. And again, it keeps making me want to know more. Like, what the hell is going on? And that's the beauty of this book. The character Val, she's pretty bland. She's not an unlikable character by any stretch, but she's not anything noteworthy either. She's just a facilitator of the events. I think some people are gonna just be bored by this book. If you know, I know people back that don't like this book. Scott Snyder has that effect on some people. Just like, I can't stand reading Scott Snyder's work, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if you're one of those people, you already know that. But if you like anything that I've said so far, if you're okay with just big world building, creative, imaginative tales, you don't care about big depth of character and human commentary, social commentary and human themes. If you're not big on all that, the artsy side of writing, you just want a grand, exciting, creative tale, Scott Snyder is the kind of guy who's going to give it to you, especially if you like horror stories, if you like post-apocalyptic stuff. I think this is part of the things that comics lend themselves really well to, because they don't have to worry about budgets or anything like that. They can just, if you can draw it, you can tell it. So we get actually some of the most family human moments in this story between the brother and Val, and some of the unspoken things that have been between them all these years about the death of their parents. And we find out that M actually may have become infected intentionally. He hates living this way. He hates hiding from the darkness. So there's some interesting ideas that might come into place there. We get this revelation, and it's kind of shocking to Val. We don't know where it's going to go. Val wants to just basically plant roots here and be like, we're staying here in the light, and he doesn't want to. And it's weird because she's all her life since the PM happened, she's been kind of living for him, to protect him. She's the older sister. And if you're curious of why M is black and she's not, she's Hispanic, it's because she was adopted. His family adopted her. But anyways, so here we see the granddaughter of Tiberius, and she's kind of grown attached to Val like a big sister, and wants her trucker name, her handle, because whatever. And we get a big reveal that you know what? I think I'm not going to spoil, but it's kind of a sinister thing that basically all's not perfect in paradise. So I'm going to keep that as a wraps, because I don't really enjoy spoiling comics. I feel that for what I do, it benefits it, so you can really understand what I'm talking about. I can give you examples. But this is a good book. I think it's a 4-star book. I say 5 stars for the absolute creme de la creme. So you got to be out of this world to be a 5-star book. 4 is really, really good. 3 is doing what you're supposed to do, getting the job done, satisfactory. 2 is you came in, you didn't pass muster, and 1 is like, oh, throw it in the trash, kill it with fire. It's an abomination. So 4 stars, good book, solid, recommend it. If you're getting this book, let me know what you're thinking about it below. I would love to hear. If you're not getting it, tell me why. Are you curious about maybe picking it up? It's a good time. It's only 5 issues in, so you can easily pick up the issues now. You don't have to, scour too far back. This is an ongoing series, which is something I'm a big proponent of. It's got great art. It's got good writing. This is what comics should be. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for watching.